Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Hare Krishna, we are reading from Kirtan Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, entitled Brahma's Prayers for Creative Energy. Text 39. Pritohamastu bhadram te Lokanam vijayechaya Yudastav shir gunamayam Nirgunam manuvarnayan Pritohamastu bhadram te Lokanam vijayechaya Yudastav shir gunamayam Nirgunam manuvarnayan Pritohamastu bhadram te Lokanam vijayechaya Yudastav shir gunamayam Nirgunam manuvarnayan
Pritohamastu bhadram te Yadastav shir gunamayam Pritohamastu bhadram te
Let it be so. Bhadram, all benediction. Te, unto you. Lokana, of the planets. Vijaya, for glorification. Ichaya, by your desire. Yad, that which. Astaushihi, you prayed for. Gunamayam, describing all transcendental qualities. Nirgunam, although I am free from all material qualities. Ma, me. Anuvarnayan, nicely describing. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace. Abhay Charanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. I am very much pleased by your description of me in terms of my transcendental qualities, which appear mundane to the mundaners. I grant you all benedictions in your desire to glorify all the planets by your activities. Purport. A pure devotee of the Lord, like Brahma, and those in his line of disciplic succession, always desire that the Lord be known all over the universe by each and every one of the living entities. That desire of the devotee is always blessed by the Lord. The impersonalist sometimes prays for the mercy of the personality of Godhead Narayana as the embodiment of material goodness. But such prayers do not satisfy the Lord, because He is not thereby glorified in terms of His actual transcendental qualities. The pure devotees of the Lord are always most dear to Him, although He is always kind and merciful to all living entities. Here the word Gunamayam is significant because it indicates the Lord's possessing transcendental qualities. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya. Hare Krishna. So it is indeed my great happiness and also gratitude to all of you for giving me this opportunity to serve. I seek your blessings, especially the blessings of His Holiness Damir Maharaj, that I can speak something worthwhile in glorification of Krishna and for purification of my own heart. I had heard about this temple in connection with one of the books that I read of Maharaj. I think, if I'm not wrong, this was the first place that he came in touch with when he came across as a volleyball champion, being a person who is learning Krishna consciousness. In those days, he approached the temple president, started coming to temple, and the first service he was given was to find out who is Ekendra and do some service with him. So Maharaj went on to find out who this Ekendra is, and it happened to be a 4-year-old boy. And it was told that the service that was given by that boy to Maharaj was whitewashing the compound walls. At that time, this service being done together by them naturally led to some conversation. And Maharaj asked him some questions and he was answering, and he was asking some questions and Maharaj was answering. And at that time, Ekendra asked one question, to which Maharaj said, I think the answer could be like this. And that Ekendra said, do not speculate. And then Maharaj writes there very beautifully, this was the first lesson I learned in the Hare Krishna movement, that whatever we speak in parampara. And we do not speculate about the nature of transcendence. And offering transcendence, when a speaker speaks, he is not speaking words, he is transferring consciousness. And therefore it is very important that our consciousness be firmly fixed in Krishna, so that the words, whatever they may be, that we may utter prayerfully, can have transformation effect. So I pray to Maharaj that I don't speculate, and I also speak words that are transcendental, not coming out of mental or sensual platform. Maharaj has been one of my greatest heroes in brahmachari life. After reading some of his books, I really got a lot of conviction and determination to practice brahmachari life. In fact, I joined temple after reading one of the books that he had written on brahmacharya. And since then, I had a desire to someday or other come in touch with him to offer my gratitude. And it is a very unusual circumstance in which I am coming across. I'm slightly nervous that he's sitting here and I'm speaking in front of him. So I hope I don't fumble in my expressions. So, this particular verse, Pritohamastu bhadram te lokanam vijayechaya yadastau shirgunamayam nirgunam mam varnayam. Please repeat translation. I am very much pleased by your description of me in terms of my transcendental qualities, which appear mundane to the mundaners. I grant you all benedictions in your desire to glorify all the planets by your activities. All of us in our life have a secret desire to be a glorious person. Why do we call it secret desire? Because we would not like to verbalize it. Bound by humility, or how can I say such a thing, that I want to be a glorious person. But all of us have it. Where does this desire come from? Come from Krishna. He has that desire, and This is why Bhagavatam offers us a beautiful way of becoming glorious in the service of the Lord by becoming an instrument who spreads the glories of the Lord. There are many people in this world who are trying to become glorious, and they are doing crazy things. In Sanskrit it is said, Ghatam Vindyat, Patam Chindyat, Kuryat Gardhabharodanam, Yena Kena Prakarena Prasiddha Purushaha Bhavet. Ghatam Vindyat means to break some pots or, I don't know, cars or stores. Patam Chindyat, tear off your clothes, jeans here, there, everywhere. Kuryat Gardhabharodanam, howl like a donkey while singing some rock songs or whatever. Yena Kena Prakarena, somehow or other, Prasiddha Purushaha Bhavet, become a famous person. So that is the mentality of materialistic people. They are so desperate to gain fame, prestige, control, power over others, and thus try and become a glorious person. But this endeavor neither satisfies their hearts, and those who are coming across them, although sometimes may tend to admire them, are actually envious of them. Thus their hearts are also not satisfied. On the contrary, a pure devotee of the Lord, his fame is eternal. In Ramananda Rai Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Samvad, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asks, whose fame is most wonderful? How should one become famous? And Ramananda Rai replies, one who becomes devotee of Krishna becomes the most famous. And we see Brahma, Prahlada, Dhruva, millions of years later, their glories are being sung by those people who are thoroughly honest, sadhus. And this is the proof that the path of becoming glorious is actually by becoming an instrument in the mission of the Lord, spreading His glories. Now someone may say, should we really think like that? I want to become glorious. The mood is that we want to actually exercise our talents, capacities, skills in such a way that we expand the service of the Lord. Krishna consciousness is a very wonderful magic wand. Srila Prabhupada, wherever he went, he carried Krishna in his heart, and he simply spoke words that were glorifying Krishna. And as a result of that, what was happening is a portion of material energy was getting converted into spiritual energy. Wherever Prabhupada went, we can see this temple that came up, or so many wonderful facilities that have been brought up in ISKCON. It is all because of Srila Prabhupada uttering glorification of Krishna with a pure desire to serve. And what is the result? It's like a magic wand, this Krishna consciousness. Wherever you go, you transform a portion of material energy into spiritual energy. And this secret of becoming an instrument and thus a glorious person in service of the Lord is very vividly elaborated in this section of Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Brahma, in the beginning of creation, we know the story of how he was confused. Who am I? What am I to do? Where am I? Where did I come from? None of these questions were clear to him. And therefore, when he performed tapa, transcendental austerity, the Lord manifested himself, and Brahma offered choice poetry, Uttama Shloka, in glorification of the Lord. When Lord heard those words, which were nirvyalika, free from duplicity, without any ulterior motives, Lord was so pleased with Brahma, he started offering him wonderful benedictions. And one of those benedictions is described in this shloka. Lord is saying, Pritoham, I am very endeared by you. Bhadram te, may there be all auspiciousness unto you. Lokana vijayechaya, whatever planetary systems you may create, whatever service you may do in Krishna consciousness, may you be always victorious. In fact, Srila Prabhupada translates Vijaya Ichchaya as by your desire for glorification of me, you will actually rule over all the planets. And in this way, Yadastav Shir Gunamayam, whatever glorification of me you have performed, of my transcendental qualities, Nirgunam Manu Varanayan, I accept them as one of the precise descriptions of my personality. So all of us get to know when someone glorifies us, whether that glorification is coming out of genuineness, whether that glorification is coming out of envy, whether that glorification is coming out of ulterior desires, ulterior motives. We all have some system by which we come to know while interacting with others. Sometimes Prabhuji, you are such a wonderful devotee, Prabhuji. You sing so nicely, you distribute books so nicely, on and on. Would you please reserve my Maha plate? After your arati is over. So, all of us have a sense of what is pure glorification. Similarly, Lord knows the heart of Brahma. When he was offering prayers, he was not speaking those prayers just out of some kind of eulogy. He meant it. In heart of hearts, Brahma was feeling that Krishna is so glorious and his glories deserve to be spread everywhere in the world. Let me do that job for him. So this is the mood which is called Nirvyarika, without any hypocrisy or duplicity, which was being appreciated by Lord Krishna. We have so many examples where Krishna has been offered some respect or glorification, but he didn't get impressed. Duryodhana did it during the visit of Krishna to Hastinapur. He offered him Duryodhana ka bhogana khayo, rukha shakave duraghar khayo, aise prema pujari radhe shama shama sham. So, Duryodhana was trying to impress upon Krishna that he should ally with him, with all his army for the war. And in the mood of wanting such gain, he was offering Chappan Bhog, 56 items, lavishly cooked and offered as a feast. At that time, Krishna says to Duryodhana, a person will eat at the home of another person only on two conditions. If he is too hungry, and number one, if there is too much love between them. None of these things are true in my case with you. I am not hungry and I know you are not inviting out of love. In fact, you are such an offender against my devotees, Pandavas. So, Krishna denied the offer of Duryodhana. He went to the home of Vidura, and of course we know what he ate there, the peel of bananas offered by Viduradi, because they were offered out of love. So even broken words which are not spoken eloquently, but with a genuine desire to glorify Krishna, have positive transcendental effect on both the speaker and the listener. And that's why Bhagavatam describes that. What is that verse? Even though imperfectly composed, Tat vag visargo janatagha viplavo Yasmin prati shlokam abadhavatyapi. Although not perfectly composed, such glorification. Namani anantasya yashonkitani shrunvanti gayanti grunanti sadhava. Such words are accepted as wonderful by people who are sadhus, thoroughly honest. And therefore, following in the footsteps of Lord Brahma, we all come in Brahma Sampradaya. He is our founder, Acharya of our Sampradaya. We should also learn from Lord Brahma these beautiful qualities that he has and apply them in our life. First and foremost quality of Brahma was that after being bewildered, he did not delve further into what we call the Avaroha Pantha, trying to figure out things all by his own strength. Brahma actually decided to become submissive and started offering prayers. At that time, Lord revealed to him what is the next course of action, tapa. Similarly, in our spiritual life, whenever we get bewildered, confused, unable to create wonderful service for the Lord, we should also seek shelter in vandanam, prayer, and seek insights or instructions from the Lord and His pure devotees. Second quality of Lord Brahma is that he had a genuine desire to do the service of creation because he is aware that that is the chance for the conditioned living entities to go back home, back to Godhead. If the Visarga does not take place, how will the conditioned living entities get a chance to perform devotional service and thus go back home, back to Godhead? They will always remain in a dormant condition, rotting in the material world, without the service of the Lord. So his desire was very pure. Thirdly, Brahma had this desire, or rather, he executed his tapasya so well that when the Lord was pleased, he actually gave whatever he had on his mind as fears or apprehensions about his service. He spoke them very openly to the Lord. It's called Atma Nivedanam. Speaking one's heart completely. He says, I am afraid that during this creation of universe, I may come across vicious living entities. Because I have to create all kinds of species, and in their association, my consciousness may become contaminated. Something like when we go on book distribution. He prayed, during this creation, generally we have a tendency that we become very attached to what we create. I may become contaminated by the mentality that I am the doer, I am the controller, I am the proprietor, I am the enjoyer. And I want to be protected from such a thought. And in this way, Lord Brahma was revealing his heart about the apprehensions that he had in doing this service and was seeking specific benedictions from the Lord. That I may not be affected by bad association. I may not be affected by proprietorship mentality. May I not fumble in my attitude of being a servant of the servant of God while doing the service of creation. So all these wonderful words that Brahma spoke, now the Lord is actually reciprocating. He is telling what is he feeling about these words that Brahma has said. He says, Pritoham, I am really satisfied by your attitude as well as by your beautiful words of glorification. Another point that Prabhupada makes in the purport is that word Gunamayam followed by Nirgunam. The Lord is Nirguna without material qualities, but that does not mean he has no qualities. He is Gunamayam, full of transcendental qualities. In fact, one of the secrets of advancing in Krishna consciousness is to try and know as much as we can about Krishna's 64 transcendental qualities. Just like we have Nama Tattva, then there is Rupa Tattva, there is Guna Tattva, and then there is Leela Tattva. We should delve very deeply in these subject matters and explore them as much as we can excavate wonderful jewels or facets of personality of God that we can know. Generally speaking, we get fascinated or attracted to a person based on their Rupa, Guna and Leela. So the more we know about Krishna, the more our love for him increases. So my request to you, sometime during this week, please at least once read the 64 qualities of Krishna that are given in Nectar of Devotion. Beautiful qualities. And these qualities are so transcendental that even Krishna is amazed at them. We have that pastime where Krishna is amazed by his Rupa. As a baby, Krishna looks in the mirror and he tries to play with that beautiful boy that he sees in the mirror. Another pastime in Dwaraka, Krishna sees his own reflection in the mirror-like flooring of Dwaraka palaces. And looking at that beautiful form, Krishna is astonished, thinking, who is this beautiful person? Of course, we also do that sometimes while looking at mirror. Who is this that I'm looking at? You know, a brahmachari may give extra, shining, shave to himself, and then may appreciate his own effulgence or beauty. But actually, this is this is coming from contaminated consciousness. When Krishna does the same, we should not think just see Krishna is also like me. Krishna's qualities are really transcendental. And his appreciation of himself is nothing mundane. He is really wonderful. And in this manner, guna, just like Rupa of Krishna is very attractive, guna, qualities of Krishna are also very attractive, and they also need to be appreciated in heart of hearts. Especially Krishna's true qualities are very prominent for a devotee. They make a lot of meaning. Number one is Bhakta Vatsala. And number two is Deenanatha or Deenadayana. So Krishna is very affectionate, like a cow is to a calf towards his devotees, Bhakta Vatsalata, and Deenadayana, which means he is exceptionally merciful towards those who are in bad shape in life. If you can call that, Deena, poor-hearted people. And all of us fall, at least myself, I fall in that category. So this Bhakta Vatsala name is, one Acharya writes that, I don't appreciate that so much because I am not a devotee. So Krishna may or may not show Vatsalata to me. But I like this name of Krishna, that he is Deenadayana, that he shows special mercy to the fallen souls. So in this way, we should delve deeply into the wonderful qualities of Krishna and increase our appreciation and attraction for him. Gunamayam Nirgunam Manuvarnayam. One another important point Srila Prabhupada makes in the purport is about our favorite enemies, the impersonalists. Every teacher has got favorite students in the class and also not so favorite students in the class. Usually they are the backbenchers who create trouble in the class. And any time the teacher gets angry over anything, they are to be typically corned and bashed up by him. In the same manner, Prabhupada's backbenchers are Mayavadis. There may be wonderful things going on in the narrations of Bhagavatam or Krishna book, but Prabhupada never fails to once in a while bring in those Mayavadis, give them 2-3 punches and send them back. Continue the description. I was reading this pastime of Krishna and Rukmini. Rukmini is being teased by Krishna and she is she's not taking it well. She is in great anguish. And there is a beautiful loving Madhurya Rasa exchange going on between them. Rukmini is talking about Krishna's transcendental qualities, And suddenly Prabhupada brings these Mayavadis in between, in Krishna book, if you read there. God knows where they appear from. He just gives them 2-3 punches very nicely, how they are rascals, fools, everything, and sends them home. And then continues the narration of how Krishna dealt with Rukmini. And it is so amazing. He does that regularly, you will find it. Here also, as such, it's a loving exchange going on between Brahma and Garbhodaksha and Vishnu. It's not like Mayavadis are necessarily needed here anywhere, but they have to come in picture. And the point is being made, the impersonalists sometimes praise for the mercy of Narayana as the embodiment of material goodness. What do the impersonalists think of the Lord? They think that the 3 gunas, Sattva, Raja, Tama, they overpower the Lord himself, the Brahman that manifests under the spell of material energy. And when Brahman manifests in goodness, it takes the forms like Krishna, Rama, Vishnu, Varaha, etc. When Brahman manifests in mode of passion, it takes the forms of human beings and demigods. And when Brahman manifests in the form of ignorance, it takes the shape of trees and reptiles and insects and other living entities, other species. This is what they think. And this is why embodiment of material goodness Means the avatars of Krishna are treated as embodiments of Sattva-guna by the Mayavadis. This is a great offense. Krishna very, very clearly mentions that I am beyond the three modes. Or my bhava, nature, parastasmatu bhava anya, is beyond the jurisdiction of three modes of material nature. But they do not appreciate that description of Krishna. And that is why they are considered offenders. Such prayers of Mayavadis do not satisfy the Lord, because He is not thereby glorified in terms of His actual transcendental qualities. So in our glorification of Krishna, we should know that Krishna has primary and secondary names, He has primary and secondary qualities, and He has primary and secondary pastimes, Leela. Krishna's primary names like Yashodanandana, Gopijana Vallabha are to be highly appreciated and sung. His secondary names like Ishvara, Paramatma, Jagadish, etc. They are not actually indicative of the real nature of Krishna, his intimate personal relationship with his devotees. Just like if I were to call the temple president of this temple as Mr. President, instead of calling him by the name, he would not appreciate it. He would say, what is this? Every now and then, Mr. President. So similarly, Krishna does not like somebody calling him Jagadish and Paramatma and all that. He likes being called as Yashodananda, Gopijana. Similarly, there is Krishna's primary and secondary gunas, qualities, like Bhakta Vatsala, Dina Dayana. Primary qualities. Secondary qualities are that he is Nirguna, has no material qualities, Gunamaya. But that's not actually a full-scale description of Krishna. And similarly, there is primary pastimes of Krishna that he performs in Goloka Vrindavan. And there are secondary pastimes of the Lord, such as the creation, maintenance, destruction of the material universe. So, devotee of Krishna is very intelligent. He knows both of them, but he exclusively relishes glorifying Krishna in this primary Nama Rupa Guna Leela categories. Not like Mayavadis who generally delight in the secondary aspects, which are not very pleasing to Krishna. So this is the third point Srila Prabhupada makes in this purport. So, I hope I have covered whatever I had to say in terms of the points in the purports. Now I will say something generic that I had on my mind when I came to this place. In Krishna consciousness, or for that matter in any field of human endeavor, if we have to attain excellence, there are three things we should always keep in mind. Number one, mastery under a master. Number two, living, creating conducive environments, facilities, habits, lifestyles for pursuing our path. And number three, giving oneself incremental push to become better and better in that field of human endeavor. For example, if you want to learn Kung Fu, we can go browse internet sites, we can read books. But what we will not get by thousands of websites being browsed and books being read, we can get in 20 minutes association with a wise man who knows how that art works. Therefore, mastery under a master. In Krishna consciousness, we should find out who are those Shiksha and Diksha Gurus who can actually train us properly in Krishna consciousness, so that we don't have to waste time figuring out things, but rather get to the core right from day one and live by it throughout our life. That saves time, energy and consciousness. Waste. Second, if you want to learn Kung Fu, we have to create conducive environment, lifestyle, habits and facilities, without which we can't do it. So we have to live in the association of other people who are passionate about that art and get those facilities arranged or lifestyle arranged. which is conducive for learning. And third, we should give ourselves incremental push. This word is interesting, incremental. Sometimes we take vows that are unfollowable. And sometimes we take so many vows that we forget also what all vows we have taken. You know, I will do this, I will do that. But we better take incremental push so that we do better than what we were doing yesterday in Krishna consciousness. These three principles are very beautifully elaborated in Nectar of Instruction, verse number 8. Tannamarupa charitadi sukirtanano smrutyo kramena rasana manasi niyojya tishtan rajeta danuragi jananugami kalam nayedakhila nityupadesha saram. Rupa Goswami is telling what is the essence of all advice for a bhakti yogi. This is our path of human endeavor. We have chosen to become excellent bhakti yogi in our life. Why did we come to ISKCON? There could be a million reasons. Prasad was nice, devotees were too good, temple was so, deities were so attractive, so on and so forth. But one of the main reasons why we have come to ISKCON is there is no organization on planet Earth that offers facility for sadhana bhakti the way ISKCON offers, which is our current state of affairs. And number two, why are we practicing sadhana bhakti? To develop transcendental qualities. If we are practicing our bhakti yoga, we are not developing qualities, Vaishnava qualities, then something is wrong with our practice. And why should we develop Vaishnava qualities? Because Krishna cannot be attracted by anything mundane or material. We cannot attract Krishna by our beauty, strength, knowledge, fame, renunciation. Krishna is attracted by the Vaishnava qualities of his devotees, like he is attracted to Lord Brahma. And he repeats this theme in Bhagavad Gita in every chapter. Every chapter of Bhagavad Gita has got some Vaishnava qualities being given there that are attractive to Krishna. In fact, in 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks Bhaktastakam, 8 verses glorifying his devotees, in which he is talking about Adveshta, Sarvabhutana, Maitrah, Karuna, Vacha, Nirmamo, Nirahankara. What is essentially saying is, Yoman Bhaktaha, such a devotee of mine who has these transcendental qualities is very dear to me. So therefore, in the Nectar of Instruction, how to practice sadhana bhakti so that we develop wonderful Vaishnava qualities is very beautifully described in this verse. So this verse says, Tannama rupa charita adi sukirtanano smrutyo kramena rasana manasi niyojya. One should take wholeheartedly to chanting, hearing and remembering of Lord's Nama Rupa Guna Lila. So that's like giving oneself incremental push. Then Rupa Goswami recommends Tishtan Raje. Stay in Vrindavana-like atmosphere. Create a conducive environment by which your remembrance of Krishna can be evoked moment after moment. This is technically called as cultural engineering of things around us. Tishtan Raje. And finally he says, Tad Anuragi Jana Anugami, mastery under a master. Find out that devotee who is madly attracted to Krishna and become his disciple. And thus develop the qualities or the needed expertise in rendering devotional service. So this is all I had to say in conclusion, that in order to become excellent in our practice of Bhakti Yoga, we should develop mastery under a master, create conducive environment, and give oneself incremental pushes. And these principles apply in any field of human endeavor. If you want to become a top book distributor, best deity worshipper, good chanter, anything, these same principles apply. So I take this opportunity to seek all of your blessings so that I can live by these principles myself and not just speak them, but especially that these principles may always remain fresh in my heart Just like Sandipani Muni blessed Krishna, that whatever you have learnt from me will always remain fresh in your heart. Vedic knowledge will never become stale for you. So that is the blessing I seek from all of you. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, thank you very much. I was reflecting that in your talk you were mentioning how there are primary and secondary qualities, and pastimes and names, presumably forms too. So in the context you were saying that the devotee understands the difference. They understand both primary and secondary, and they understand the difference, and they'll choose to relish from the primary rather than from the secondary. Whereas the impersonalists may have some understanding of the all-pervasiveness of God and so forth, but they're not privy to understanding His Himself. So can you help us to understand why it is that in the Srimad Bhagavatam the presentation is so systematic from the first canto to the end, whereby one is practically forced to really appreciate the secondary aspects of the Lord. In fact, in the prayers, I've noticed throughout the Bhagavatam, the prayers of the pure devotees who are very intimate associates, they generally begin by glorifying the Lord's secondary qualities before they move on to their own personal realizations. Can you give your feedback on why that is, what that means?
In Christianity, they say fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And in Vaishnavism, we say love of God is the culmination of wisdom. So usually, for those who are coming across as sadhakas, who are studying Bhagavatam not out of relish that they already have, but that they want to develop, they begin at the level of fear, desire, duty, and then love. And Bhagavatam being both Paramahamsa Samhita, meant for those who are perfected devotees, and also Sadhaka Samhita, for those who are not yet perfected devotees, has a combination of both facets being given there. When it comes to us, we especially emphasize the nature of the Lord that is going to give us the needed respect, going to give us the needed discipline, going to give us the needed, so to say, non-cheap, approach. And that is why there is so much elaboration of these in the Bhagavatam. We generally don't find that in the spiritual world, in the dealings of the devotees of the Lord with Him. But in Bhagavatam, yes. And another reason, in the Bhagavatam was also spoken to an audience that was varied. It was not only pure devotees sitting in front of Shukadeva Goswami. And all kinds of jnanis, yogis, and others. One of the purposes of Bhagavatam is to also attract them, kind of rope them into the fold of Bhakti Yoga. By describing to them that what they are seeking after is present here in the form of Krishna, in its full form. So, from both sides, from the audience point of view, from our personal point of view, and from the arrangement of this hierarchical development of understanding of God point of view, it makes perfect sense that Bhagavatam will have those elaborations also in huge quantity. But ultimately the purpose is very clear. Bhagavad wants us to relish the primary and wants us to develop the primary relationships with the Lord. Makes sense? Maharaj would like to add something. Maharaj would like to comment something.
If we don't know about how creation takes place in the universe, then we have to accept the Big Bang Theory. And if we accept the Big Bang Theory, then that's atheism. There's no God, everything's an accident. Everything comes out of the void. And life is just a combination of chemicals. You can do whatever you like and enjoy yourself. So we have to destroy that. That's one of the reasons.
Yes.
We need to have a Temple of Vedic Planetarium.
Thank you. Should we end it?
We can take more questions.
More questions. Yes, Prabhu.
question about making a push, incremental pushes. So, I live in the Brahmacharya ashram, and generally I find myself kind of becoming, just doing the routine, just doing what's necessary every day, but not really going beyond, not really increasing my service, anything like that. How can I, in this ashram, increase my service and have incremental pushes, like you said?
There are two job descriptions of a brahmachari. There could be many, but these are like primary. Number one, be haunted by Vedic sound. And number two, be hunting for service. So be haunted by Vedic sound means brahmacharya life is primarily student life. So we are students of the Vedas under a guru. And the Vedic sound in the form of Vaishnava songs, Hare Krishna mantra, various suktas, stutis of the Lord, Bhagavatam verses, and instructions of our guru, classes that we hear, they should be continuously resounding in our consciousness. So that is one part of our preparation in life. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Te Kariha Kya Harana Kariha Mane Asha. So that's called being haunted. If you can call it like that. Being haunted by Vedic sound. And all this wonderful knowledge is there so that ultimately we can put it into practice and get realization. But that realization won't come without service. And that's why the second part of job description is that we should run towards service, not away from service. That doesn't mean we spoil our health and don't sleep properly. That's not the meaning. We have that eagerness. If given a chance, we'll do more service. So we have some study solidly that we do, maybe 1-2 hours per day. Rest of the time we are happy doing service. Whatever comes on our plate, we do. So this service will give us the realization. Sevon mukhehi jirvado swayameva spurati ataha. Krishna becomes pleased to see that service attitude, and he blesses that devotee with realizations. So knowing these two job descriptions, now we can talk about what is the push that we are supposed to be giving and how to give it. So my understanding is, usually all of us need a coach or a mentor in Krishna consciousness. If somebody is in 10th standard, he has the capacity to guide 5th standard person. Somebody in 5th standard, he can guide the 1st standard person. It's not that the 1st standard guy has to have a PhD teacher only. Sometimes devotees say, unless my guru gives me instruction, no, I will not follow anything. That's not needed. Somebody has gone through this life way ahead of you and has seen the ups and downs, and he knows the nitty-gritties of what works, what doesn't work. We can become their apprentice. Mastery under a master. And one of the aspects of mastery under a master is to get regular feedback about our performance in devotional service. There are 2 questions we should regularly ask our superiors. Number 1, are you satisfied with my performance of devotional service? Is there something I should be doing to make it better? And number 2, the community in which I stay, have the devotees in that community given you any inputs about what can I do to make myself better? So one is about his observation, another is about the generic observation of the devotee. Because devotees keep saying, right, that devotee is too lazy, is too this, that. And the news goes to the superior somehow or other. So we have to open up and ask that question with humility, that I want to change myself. So many times we don't seek such a feedback because we are afraid of it. What will come, I don't know, and how much can I work upon it. But still, nevertheless, we should ask, because feedback is the breakfast of the champions. What they eat for breakfast? They eat feedback. So if you want to become better, we have to do this. And one another thing about this incremental push is I try and write daily journals of primary activities of sadhana and seva, so that what you measure gets managed. what you don't measure, you don't even know what is going on there, so that nothing gets managed. So therefore, if we can just kind of keep a track of how we do our sadhana, how we do our seva, then the visuals may help us, to actually course correct ourselves right in time without going too far astray. Sometimes months pass by, we have not read anything. Months pass by, we didn't enter into the altar and did deity worship. So we have to be tracking those parameters that are critically important for our spiritual growth. Typically the Sadhu Sangha, Nama Kirtan, Bhagavata Shravan, Mathura Vas, Shri Murtira, Shraddhaya Seva. Those 5 primary items of Bhakti Yoga. Make sense? So we end. Just one second. Maharaj, would you like to comment on this question?
Hare Krishna Guru. I would like to ask how to understand and what to do when my faith is tested, and how, basically just what to do and how to perceive it.
Usually questions like this need to be dealt on a specific case-to-case manner and not generic manner. But because you are asking a generic question, I will give a generic answer. But my suggestion is that you speak your heart to some devotees of the specific incidences, perceptions, troubles which have made the faith weak, and then address those issues. So the generic answer is, when our faith becomes shaken up, in our Pune we do one exercise called faith and doubt. Regularly we do that exercise. We ask all the devotees, what gives you faith in Bhakti Yoga? What makes you apprehensive about following it? What gives you faith in ISKCON as an organization? What disturbs your faith? What gives you faith in your Guru? Prabhupada, Diksha, Shiksha Gurus. What disturbs it? And in some of the Ishta Goshtis, there are 5, 6, 7 devotees who sit together and actually churn those topics. So sometimes you have weak faith in one aspect, another devotee has got strong faith in that aspect. And the discussion makes such a difference sometimes that you actually start seeing from another's perspective. And your own faith also enhances by such discussion. Like I had a serious problem with the moon landing issue. First time when I had, because I come from a certain engineering background. Or I had a serious issue with, the child abuse case that happened in ISKCON and ISKCON going bankrupt. And I really tested my faith in the movement. Or I also had serious issues in some of my superiors when they miscalculated the response they should give to some devotee's trouble. They overdid something. And those were the times when what I did was to actually talk to devotees. So there were devotees who were scientific minded and they had full conviction in Prabhupada's words that man never went to moon. Speaking to them, opening my heart and asking whatever I had in my heart as questions. Gradually became convinced. So Shraddha is usually borrowed from Vaishnavas. When we sing that song, O He Vaishnava Thakura, Tumi Kripa Kari, Shraddha Bindu Diya, Deho Krishna Nama Dhane. So usually our Shraddha is not just product of our own intellectualization. I have a powerful, ability to rationalize anything and then I develop my faith. It is not like that. Shraddha is usually product of association, service. So in Krishna consciousness there are 3 kinds of boxes we can make of the faith challenging items. One box is you have a question, you go and ask a relevant query, it gets sorted out. Second category, you have a question, answer is not immediately available. You have to continue practicing for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. 10 years later, that doubt will be answered. How that is so? And third category, certain things in Krishna consciousness we will never understand. No matter what we try to do about it, because Krishna is ultimately inconceivable. For example, the cowherd boys complain that Krishna ate dirt. And Krishna says, I didn't eat dirt. And when Mother Yashoda tells him to open the mouth, he shows her Virat Rupa, Vishwarupa. Now Acharya's comment there, whether Krishna ate dirt or not, who is true? Balaram is true or Krishna is true? And both are absolute truth. So now this you cannot sort out. Better not get into that track, just relish. Don't intellectualize. That's not part of law. If logic can capture God, then logic becomes God, which is logically not possible. So there are things like that. So we should know and be a little patient. Sometimes the answers may not immediately come, and the faith may not be immediately sorted out in full. But if we continue chanting, studying, serving, with a desire to know and learn, in due course of time, certain things will be revealed to us. This is how it works. So these are some generic things I can think of. Maybe Maharaj can comment. Makes sense?
Just to follow up with Pranari Prabhu's question, you mentioned you have these sessions of faith and doubt with the philosophy or...
Just to continue in between, we generally have Ishta Goshtis, and the Ishta Goshtis generally become Mushti Goshtis. Management meetings. One of the reasons why that happens is because the proportionate discussion of Krishna Katha and Krishna Seva is not balanced in those meetings. There has to be Krishna Katha. We are first of all devotees, we relish Krishna together, Krishna server. It's not like we always do management, So first Krishna Katha, a portion, maybe 5-10 minutes, no problem. Everyone shares what they are relishing in Krishna consciousness. And then we begin the management meeting. Then the Mushti Goshti reduces a little. Because we see each other as Vaishnavas, wanting to serve Krishna.
Well, just from your demeanor and your Vaishnava Sadacha, I can see that you and I'm sure the rest of the Sangha, when you have these, even this session, there's utmost integrity in how you interact. When you mentioned that, all right, faith and doubt with, I'm having trouble with the deity and Archana, but then when you get into things like discussing some things on your mind that relate with superiors, or even you mentioned guru or institution, it's an area that it can bewilder others if things are brought up. It can provoke almost envy and fault-finding. So how do you do it in such a way when you come out of it feeling empowered, your respect is even greater towards the particular thing that there was doubt for?
Yes.
Just the phenomena, okay? Because I find that in the beginning, Jai Nectar Bliss, that Hala's great, Sunday feast, Ki Jai, everyone's my guru, and then 10, 20, 30 years later, you're not necessarily an envious person, but you're seeing certain concerns, and how do you maintain that integrity to not go past the boundary where it goes into envy and fault-finding and undermining, but yet it tends to those doubts?
Very nice. Very good question. Usually, the question asker has to be in a little thoughtful mode. Is this the right forum to ask and discuss this topic in first place? I agree with that. But usually in our meetings, because seniors are present, Radheshyam Prabhu or some others, and no matter what comes up, they have the ability to actually address that agitation very properly. So, somebody like Maharaj or some other seniors, when they are personally present, even if younger devotees or even senior devotees bring up some topic which can really cause a stir, If there is a mature Vaishnava present in that assembly, they can actually soothe out everyone's heart by rightly answering those questions. And that is why we should seek that guidance also. Because our Ishtagoshtis, if they are only amongst equals, then usually we may not sometimes always resolve all the issues. But with at least one or two superiors who are present, or those issues can be discussed and decided, we are not going to discuss it here. We are going to ask it to someone else and we will come back to you. That can avoid all this clutter, offenses, etc. Okay, I think I should end there. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Granthraaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanande.